But first, U.S. Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California is a Democrat, and U.S. Congressman Mike Pence of Indiana is a Republican. I want to ask you, Barbara Lee, Congresswoman, to run through it. How's he doing the first 50 days, President Barack Obama?
President Obama is doing a phenomenal job. He's doing exactly what he should do, what he said he was going to do. First of all, we have to recognize that we're here at this place because of the last 8 years, because of the failed economic and foreign policies of the Bush administration. President Obama has ended torture. Torture is un-American. President Obama has put forth a plan to create or maintain 3.6 million jobs. President Obama has put forth in his budget a down payment on health care reform. President Obama has signed the Lilly Ledbetter Act to make sure that women have equal pay for equal work. President Obama has held an economic and health care summit, and I participated in the economic summit. And let me tell you, in the health care breakout session, there were, as in all of the sessions, there were Democrats, there were Republicans, there were men, there were women, there were community groups, there was labor, there was business. He is unifying the country. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He has to clean up a mess. This last 8 years have been traumatic. People's lives are in shambles. Millions of people have lost their homes. President Obama is moving dead ahead to help deal with this foreclosure crisis in a very bold way. He's provided access and the foundation for access to businesses for credit so that they can move forward and create jobs. And so I think those that are criticizing need to understand and look at what happened in the last 8 years and how we got here and applaud him for what he has done and join with us to move forward to turn our country around.
What's he not done? What don't you like?
If that question was to me, Chris, you cut away for a second. Let me say what I do like about it is I think the president is an admirable person. He stepped into the role, very naturally. He's got an admirable family, but his problem is the policies. The problem is, I agree with Barbara to some extent. I think the American people rejected runaway federal spending over the last 8 years. I think they were not enthusiastic. I personally opposed the bailout approach, the borrow and spend approach of last fall. But the president's problem right now, what I don't like, what millions of Americans don't like, is that the president's answer to that long run of runaway spending and borrowing and bailout is more of the same. A stimulus bill that included a liberal grab bag of priorities. You got an omnibus bill the Senate is considering here that includes 9,000 earmarks and the largest increase in discretionary spending since the Carter administration. So, I think the president has personally carried himself well into the office, but these policies that he's advancing, they spend too much, they tax too much, and they borrow too much, and the American people are getting a sense here the president's taken us down the road that's more of the same of what they didn't like about the last 8 years.
Chris, let me just say, though, these policies are the exact policies that need to be put into place. They're tax credits for solar energy, for green industry, for investments in green technology. There have been tax credits for our small businesses to create jobs. We put resources into the infrastructure of our country to help build roads and bridges, to create jobs in communities that need job creation. And so the policies have been absolutely correct. They've been broad. Even the business community, the chambers of commerce support his policies. People who live in Republican districts need these policies in place. They too are losing their jobs. They too have their lives are shattered as a result of the last 8 years. And so you can't tell me that these are the wrong policies, either the correct policies, and we have to support the president as we move forward.
Well, let me cut this question in half here. A lot of people believe that this president has bit off more than he can chew. Not only is he pushing for more stimulus in the economy with the big stimulus bill, but he's also going for changing the tax structure, making it much tougher on people at the top to pay for health care, to pay for energy development, for alternative energy development, to pay for higher education. Congressman Pence, do you think he's made a big mistake in trying to do his agenda at the same time he's trying to deal with the economic problem?
I really believe he has. I believe the stimulus bill was less about stimulating the economy and more about reorganizing the priorities of the federal government. Even the Washington Post criticized the stimulus bill on that basis. But I think you put your finger on it. The president here, rather than focusing on those kinds of policies that would really jumpstart this economy, the kind of things John F. Kennedy did, Ronald Reagan did, and that our nation and George W. Bush did after 9/11. Instead, the president's come out with an aggressive agenda to transform health care, transform energy in America, which, Barbara might be enthusiastic about, and I don't begrudge her opinion. But the president's tax increase, the marginal tax increase, more than half of the people that would pay that are the very small business owners that are most struggling in this economy. Homeowners, householders, renters, businesses are going to pay higher energy costs with the president's energy tax.
Here's the president speaking for himself. Let's listen to the president. Let's listen to the president.
I know there's some who believe we can only handle one challenge at a time. They forget that Lincoln helped lay down the Transcontinental Railroad and passed the Homestead Act and created the National Academy of Sciences in the midst of Civil War. And likewise, President Roosevelt didn't have the luxury of choosing between ending a depression and fighting a war. He had to do both. President Kennedy didn't have the luxury of choosing between civil rights and sending us to the moon. And we don't have the luxury of choosing between getting our economy moving now and rebuilding it over the long term.
And here's what conservative columnist David Brooks wrote today. The GOP leaders have adopted a posture that allows the Democrats to make all the proposals, while all the Republicans can say is no. They've apparently decided that it's easier to repeat the familiar talking points than actually think through a response to the extraordinary crisis at hand. Well, that was a tough critique by a conservative columnist, Congressman Pence. Where do you respond?
Well, I respond that, again, we see the administration and many commentators holding up some straw man about how Republicans simply want to be the party of no. We had an alternative stimulus proposal that was built on tax relief for working families, small businesses, family farms, and some responsible investments in the economy. And now the president's, the soundbite you just ran has the president saying that some people want us just to do one thing at a time. With respect, I don't know who he's talking about. The American people don't know who he's talking about. The truth is, the president's budget plan taxes too much, it spends too much, it borrows too much, it takes us in the wrong direction, and the American people want to see us abandon the borrow and spend approach of the last 8 years and get back to fiscal discipline and pro-growth policies.
Chris, the American people voted for change. They want basic change. I think the president knows that. He's doing a fine job in making this change real. When you listen to what the president has said, he understands we can't choose between health care for senior citizens or early childhood education. We can't choose between helping those who are losing their homes to foreclosures and helping small businesses create jobs. Those choices are bogus choices. He's got to do it all. The last administration left us with this mess. And so people don't want some of the same old tactics and strategy and policies. They want something new. They want something bold. And the president is moving forward with his change agenda.
But with respect to Barbara, I think borrowing and spending and bailing our way back to a growing America doesn't represent change. That's what the last administration tried to do. It's what this administration seems to be intent on doing on steroids with Democrats on Capitol Hill. I think the American people want to see Congress begin to embrace fiscal sanity, fiscal responsibility. This omnibus bill, we should just freeze federal spending at current levels, not 9,000 earmarks, not the 8% increase in spending that the Democrats in the House and Senate want to advance. We ought to hold the line like every other American family and business is doing. Fiscal sanity, pro-growth policies, that's the change the American people know we need.
Here's Rush Limbaugh today with his thoughts.
It's around 9 minutes to 1 Eastern Time on March the 10th, and I, El Rushbo, proclaim this war is lost.
He's talking about the war on the economy, on the bad economy. Barbara, Congresswoman Lee, what do you think of Rush Limbaugh saying that the Barack Obama war to save the American economy is lost?
Well, for those who listen to Rush Limbaugh, so be it. Rush Limbaugh has no clue. The economy is not lost. The president is working very hard, and when you look at the provisions of the bill that was passed and signed into law, you will see exactly how these jobs are going to be created, how they are being created, the accountability, the transparency. What the president is doing to move our country forward is unbelievably magnificent at this point. It's difficult. He recognizes we have to turn what I call these stumbling blocks into stepping stones, but that is exactly what he is doing.
Okay, thank you both, Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California and Congressman Mike Pence of Indiana.